Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm taking you along with me for a reading vlog at DragonCon. Between panels, lines, and downtime, I made a lot of progress in several of my arcs, but that was just the start. There were some unexpected bookish surprises, a favorite author I didn't know would be there, and even a few little hidden gems tucked away inside the con, so let's jump in. So after getting everyone checked in at the hotel, I make a beeline for the line for badges because I heard it was really long this year, and they were very right. It was so long. Also, the hotel where badge pickup is like the furthest possible point from our hotel than it can be on like the con footprint. So it was kind of a long walk on top of the long wait. And so I went ahead and got started on listening to a new audiobook. I got the ARC for Brigands Bread-knives, the newest book in like the series of Legend and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I thought a nice cozy read would be perfect for DragonCon just to kind of counteract all the chaos. So after I picked up everyone's badges, I head over to the Hilton. It's one of the host hotels and they decorate really cool every single year, and this year's theme was How to Tame Your Dragon. So everything was dragon and Viking themed. It was so cool. So the Hilton rooftops where they actually have all the big photo shoots, and that's what I was here for. I wanted to see the Venture Brothers photo shoot because I do the Venture Brothers photo scavenger hunt every year, and I wanted to get a few photos of the costumes for the scavenger hunt. And then after that, I head back to the room for a bit to meet up with my husband. And then we go to the Monster Romance panel, which I really wanted to go to, but even though we were half an hour early, we couldn't get in. It was already full. So this video footage was taken of me standing outside the door with some serious FOMO. So because we missed our last panel despite being super early, we decided to go even earlier to our next one we wanted to go to, which is the Chuck Tingle reading. We got there an hour and a half early, and even though it was super early, it was a lot of fun. We hung out with a lot of people over there, and the panelists, it was a lot of fun. So while waiting for my first panel of the day, I decided to start the Gingerbread Bakery by Laura Gilmore, kind of keeping with my theme of cozy reads to counteract the chaos in DragonCon. I know this is the 5th book in the series, and I have not read any of the other ones, so I'm expecting to be a little lost, but hopefully not too bad. My first panel of the day is a Let's Play of Stardew Valley, where the audience gets to make a lot of decisions, and it was so much fun. So I don't get another chance to read or anything for a while until much later in the afternoon after my husband and I's panel lets out, and he goes to go say hi to some people in the club, and I wait outside because inside the hotel it is freezing, and it's actually quite nice outside during the whole con, so I decided to read outside for a little bit while I wait for him. And then I read a little bit more when we go get lunch while I wait for him to go get our food, and I save our table. I'm still reading the Gingerbread Bakery, and it is so cozy, and I am a little lost because I have not read any other books of the series, but no more than I was expecting. It's not that bad. I will have to look up the main couples of every book just so I can keep all the couples, just so I can keep all the characters in order in my mind while I'm reading. So I've been reading mostly just cozy reads and everything during DragonCon to kind of just balance out all the chaos. But after standing in line forever, I realized I needed something a little more adventurous to keep me entertained. So I started the Scoundrel and the Siren, which is an adventure romance, and I'm so glad I did. It's definitely keeping me awake. And then later that day, I go back to the room for a little bit to read on our porch because we have a really nice view in our hotel room and the weather is just amazing. And it's the perfect place to read for a little bit while I wait for my next panel.
So we're going to dive in. I'm going to put on my professor hat for a moment, and we're going to talk real quickly about what romance is. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So let's talk about the different components that make it up, okay? So you've got romance. Romance focuses entirely on the love story with a guaranteed happily ever after or a happily for now. So when you see HEA and HFN, that's what that references. It's usually character driven with minimal fantasy elements. So, like some examples of that would be like It Ends With Us, The Love Hypothesis, right? What are some of your guys' favorite romances? Disney's up there too, right? Yeah.
And then after my panel, I head over to the Venture Brothers booth so I can get the list for the scavenger hunt, and I also go check out the art show. It's just right there. I'm starting to get to the action part of the Brigands Bread-knives. The book is really not near as cozy as I was expecting. It's definitely the least cozy, I think, of the series. So then after that, I meet up with my husband to go wait in line for the live D&D show, which was a lot of fun. I would have read a little bit more during the wait, but I fell asleep because I am exhausted at this point. Luckily, I didn't fall asleep during the show at all. And it's my turn to save our spot in line, and I wait in line for our Pirate Improv panel that we like going to every year. I'm still reading the Scoundrel and the Siren here, and I'm just getting to the part where the characters meet for the second time. And I'm really hooked, and I almost missed them telling people for all of us to move out of our spot in line. But the Pirate Improv panel is our favorite every year, and if you're ever at DragonCon, I highly recommend you try it out. It's always my husband and I's favorite thing. And then we go back to the room to go to bed, and I read for a little bit before I go to sleep. So the next day is Saturday, which is always the most crowded day at DragonCon because it's also when they have the parade, as you can tell from the mass of crowds everywhere. So I knew it was going to take me much longer than usual to get to my next panel, so I allot more time for my walk, which I'm glad I did because I still ended up being a little late. But it just meant that I got a lot more time to listen to my audiobook, which despite it's not near as cozy as the other books in the series, I'm still really enjoying it. So my first thing in the morning is a silent reading party, which basically just means that we're all in a room reading silently all together, and it's just a really nice break from all the chaos in DragonCon, and I got a lot of reading done. I got some ribbons from the Percy Jackson series for my friend that really likes that series, and I got some Jane Austen stickers for myself. They also had some blind dates of the book out for sale, and I was so tempted. I've always wanted to do that. I was able to catch a little bit of the parade on the way to the vendor mall to meet up with my husband, so I'm able to listen to more of my audiobook. So when I started this book, I really thought I was going to be starting another cozy bookstore, coffee shop kind of story, and boy, did this book have other plans. Fern's story turns into a full-on adventure pretty quickly, actually. Full of danger and deception. It still has some of the cozy, fantasy warmth, but the stakes are much higher this time around. It's so different from the other books in the series. At first, I really wasn't sure how I felt about Fern being the lead. Her sharp edges kind of made her harder to connect with as a character. Also, when I was reading the book that she was introduced in, Bookshops and Bone Dust, I really liked her a lot, but as a side character. I really wasn't sure she had lead character energy. However, the further I got in this book, the more I started to really appreciate her. And her pairing with some of the new characters really brought in some unexpected depth that really kept me really hooked in listening, and really made her character a little more well-rounded. So after the long trek and several chapters of my audiobook later, I finally make it to the vendor mall. Unfortunately, I can't stay there for very long until my next panel. And it's all about toxic book boyfriends, so I definitely don't want to miss it.
We are going to be going to discuss, can I fix him? Can I fix him? No, really, I can. I have self-analyzed so much of why I like the toxic book boyfriends, but also, we say book boyfriends just as a general term, but we recognize that there are so many different forms of love and love interests. So, you know, our toxic love interests. I'm going to try to be a little more mindful about that going forward, but we're going to be talking toxic love. All right, so from Fruity Bad Boys to the Morally Gray, and if my lovely house will introduce themselves.
I'm really surprised to see Ashley Poston, an author I really like, here as one of the panelists. I really didn't know she was going to be here.
I am Ashley Poston. I'm the New York Times bestselling author of quite a few adult romances, including The 7 Year Slip and The Dead Romantics, Not a Love Story, and Sounds Like Love. And I've also written a bunch of YA, including the Gingerbread trilogy, Kate Bishop, Bishop Takes King. Ah! Yay! And some sci-fi and fantasy. Anyway, I come from fanfic, so I'm just read me for filth with every question.
I wish I'd known that Ashley Poston was going to be here, and if I had known, I would have brought one of my copies of one of her books for her to sign. However, I didn't know, so all I had was a bookmark that I had gotten at the vendor mall just earlier for her to sign. It's better than nothing. But this is my last bookish panel or bookish thing for quite a while, until I wait in the line for the 20 Years of Twilight. Now in this line, I'm back to reading The Scoundrel and the Siren, just because I'm getting a little bored waiting in the line for so long, and I need a little bit of an adventure. This one follows Dominic, a treasure hunter chasing after a legendary Viking hoard, and Tess, a historian who's just as determined to find it. They clash right from the start, but when they're forced to work together on the dig, the chemistry is instant. I love the banter between them, even though it leans a little more to insta-love than slow burn than I would like, but whatever, it actually kind of works here. I also get to talking to a few people in line, and they're handing out fun bookish stickers, and even a Fourth Wing badge ribbon.
Okay, so obviously young adult existed before Twilight, but how do you feel Twilight contributed to the marketing of YA and why? Or if I'm wrong, if it did exist before Twilight, tell me about its origins.
So it did exist before Twilight.
Sort of.
Kind of. It wasn't like...
After that panel, I meet up with everyone for dinner, and that's the last bookish thing I do for the whole night. So now it's Sunday, and that's when my husband and I do most of our Star Wars related stuff. So I'm wearing the Star Wars shirt that I made. And if you want to see the video where I made this and everything while listening to an audiobook, I'll have that link down below. And if you want to see the vlog where I talk about everything I did at DragonCon, not just the bookish stuff, I'll have that link above and below. So I'm listening to more of my audiobook while I walk to my next panel. However, my first panel is not that far, so I don't get very much done in my book. And very appropriately for how I'm dressed, I'm going to the Fashions of Andor panel. And after that, I find a little free library in the Marriott and check it out for a little bit. I can't get a super good look at it because one, is crowded, but also my shirt that I'm wearing popped a few seams, and so I need to go find a cosplay medic stat. Check it a little bit. There's nothing that really catches my eye right away. Unfortunately, I never find this again at DragonCon, so I'm not sure what books ended up getting put in there later on. And I had bought a shirt earlier at the vendor mall. It ended up being the wrong size, so I'll go back to the vendor mall to exchange it. And I find some stalls selling some Outlander stuff, and also see Labubus out in the wild for the first time ever. I've never actually seen these being sold anywhere before. And then I changed into my shirt for the vendor mall for a while so I can work on my shirt that messed up while I wait for other panels and while I listen to my audiobook some more. And then my last bookish panel of the con is all the tropes in Bridgerton and analyzing them. It was really interesting.
Right, so shall we dive in with Daphne and Siren?
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to act or mention like the purpose of like tropes because it provides that like comfort to you when you're seeing something that you know is not real and you're like, oh, this is so nice. You can just dive into it for a moment. But also too with like the tropes, we're gonna look at it from that therapeutic lens, and so like attachment and like what does it mean when you like a certain trope versus another. And so with attachment, there's different types. So secure attachment, which means you like boundaries and you're warm and you're caring. It's really healthy. If you're an anxious attachment, that means you don't have any sense of boundaries, you're kind of clingy, you have a fear of abandonment, and we're going to talk about who is which of these two. And then there's another two, which is avoidant and disorganized, which we won't really dive into too much, but the names kind of speak for itself.
See that more with the superheroes.
Yes. So we're going to dive into like the tropes and which attachment there are too, and then just like, you know, more therapeutic things within it.
And then last but not least is Blinking Beasties, which is a monster romance or paranormal and monster romance panel that we go to every year. And this year we agreed that it's like one of the best it's ever been, and we really like the moderator they had for this year. So that's the last of the bookish stuff I did at DragonCon. And if you want to see the video of everything I did at DragonCon, that video will be linked down below. So the next day after this was Monday, which is like a part day. And we went to a Peacemaker panel, which we didn't even stay for the whole thing of because it got really spoilery. And so then we decided to just call it quits for the day and go home and just relax because we were exhausted. So that's the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!